If you walk out that door, don't expect me to come begging. Give me 24 hours. I'll find someone better than you.
The ring hit the coffee table so hard it bounced onto the floor and rolled under the couch. Bianca Vaughn stood with her arms crossed, chest heaving, eyes blazing with a fury that had nothing to do with logic and everything to do with pride. If you walk out that door, she said, don't expect me to come begging. Give me 24 hours. I'll find someone better than you. Malcolm Reed didn't move. He didn't raise his voice. He simply looked at the woman he had loved for 4 years and asked the only question that mattered. You really think I'm that replaceable? Bianca laughed, sharp and humorless. Everyone is replaceable, Malcolm. Everyone. Something in his chest went quiet. Not broken, quiet, like a light switching off in a room he no longer needed. He walked past her, picked up the suitcase he'd packed 3 days earlier without telling her, and paused at the door. Then I guess we'll see. He left. Behind him, before the door even clicked shut, Bianca already had her phone in her hand, thumbs moving fast, crafting a caption about finally choosing herself. It hadn't always been like this. 4 years earlier, Malcolm had believed he'd found the kind of love people spend a lifetime searching for. Bianca was magnetic, ambitious, the center of every room she entered. In public, they looked flawless, the couple everyone envied. But behind closed doors, the cracks had been widening for a long time. She compared him to men with bigger titles and heavier wallets. She mocked the modesty of his apartment, his car, his quiet Sunday routines. You need to act like the kind of man a woman like me deserves, she told him once, and he had swallowed it, telling himself that love meant working through hard seasons. Then came the night he saw the messages. A name he didn't recognize, texts that were far too warm for two people who claimed to be just friends. When he confronted her, she didn't flinch, didn't apologize. She turned it back on him instead. If you trusted me, you wouldn't be checking my phone. That was the moment Malcolm stopped fighting to save the relationship and started fighting to protect what was left of himself. Bianca expected him to crawl back within hours. She waited by her phone, refreshing his social media, certain his silence was just wounded pride cooling off. She texted him, "Are you seriously doing this?" No answer. Don't be childish. Still nothing. So she told their mutual friends that Malcolm had walked out over some small argument and posted a glossy photo captioned, "Never settle." Her friends cheered her on in the comments. She was sure, absolutely sure, he would come back. Then her phone rang, and it wasn't Malcolm's name on the screen. It was Naomi Ellis, her best friend of a decade, asking Malcolm to meet her instead. At first, Malcolm refused. Naomi was Bianca's closest confidant. Why would he trust a word from her circle? But Naomi's voice on the phone had none of Bianca's performance in it. "You deserve to know what actually happened," she said. "All of it." They met at a quiet cafe, and Naomi slid her phone across the table without another word. Message after message. Bianca, months before the breakup, telling another friend, "I'll keep Malcolm around until I find someone worth upgrading to." Malcolm read it twice. Something cold settled in his stomach. "She wasn't afraid you'd leave her," Naomi said softly. "She was counting on you never having the courage to." That sentence did more damage than the affair itself. Malcolm sat back, jaw tight, and asked the only thing left to ask. "Why are you telling me now?" Naomi hesitated, her fingers tightening around her coffee cup. "Because watching someone hurt you and pretending I didn't see it started making me hate myself." Malcolm left that cafe a different man. Not angrier, but clearer. The fog of 4 years lifted all at once. Bianca, unaware her secret was already unraveling, began her 24-hour experiment in earnest. Within days, she was photographed with Darius Cole, a flashy entrepreneur from her social circle. Dinners, rooftop drinks, a black-tie charity gala. She made sure every picture found its way to Malcolm's feed. "You seeing this?" she texted. "Yes," he replied. She waited for more. Nothing came. "And you have nothing to say." Malcolm typed slowly, deliberately. "You said you could replace me in 24 hours. I'm not going to interfere with your experiment." Bianca stared at the screen for a long time. That wasn't jealousy. That wasn't heartbreak. That was a man who had already left the building in every way that mattered, and for the first time, she understood it. Pride curdled into anger. She started telling people Malcolm had been emotionally unavailable, then selfish, then controlling. Eventually, whispers turned into outright implications that he'd cheated. The story spread through their circle like wildfire, each retelling a little more damning than the last. Malcolm wanted to fight back, to lay every message Naomi had shown him out in public, and watch Bianca's carefully built image collapse in real time. But Naomi stopped him. "Don't fight every lie," she told him. "People who actually know your character won't need convincing." Still, when Bianca crossed the line and publicly implied he'd mistreated her, Malcolm knew silence alone might not be enough. So he posted exactly one statement, calm and final. "I won't turn a private relationship into a public war. I know what happened, and so do the people who were there." Then he said nothing else. Ever again. That silence did more damage to Bianca's story than any argument could have. Without Malcolm feeding the drama, her increasingly frantic posts started looking less like heartbreak and more like desperation. People who'd known them both began asking questions that didn't match her version of events. Darius, tired of being compared to a man Bianca supposedly hated, started pulling away. Within weeks, he was gone too. If you're enjoying this story so far, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and hit subscribe because it only gets more intense from here. Malcolm, meanwhile, wasn't thinking about Bianca's unraveling at all. He was rebuilding. He started cooking again, the way he used to before the relationship slowly edged out every hobby that wasn't about pleasing her. He reconnected with friends he'd drifted from. He stopped checking anyone's social media out of habit. Naomi stayed close through it all, not pursuing him, just present, steady, a friend who asked nothing in return. Months passed before anything shifted. One evening, sitting on the steps outside his new apartment, Naomi turned to him. "You know you don't owe me anything because I told you the truth," she said. Malcolm looked at her for a long moment. "I know. Good. That's why I trust you." Nothing dramatic happened after that. No sudden kiss, no grand confession. Just two people who had been honest with each other, slowly discovering that honesty was its own kind of intimacy. Their romance grew the way real ones do, quietly, without an audience, without revenge attached to it. By the time 2 years had passed, Malcolm and Naomi were living together in a home that felt nothing like the one he'd left. It was ordinary in the best possible way. Burnt dinners they laughed about, grocery runs, a small herb garden they tended in the backyard every weekend, choosing each other again and again, with nothing forcing them to. Bianca's life had gone the opposite direction. After Darius, there had been another relationship, then another, each one collapsing under the same patterns she'd never examined. She kept her feed full of confidence, but privately, something had cracked open. Then, at a mutual friend's event nearly 2 years to the day after the breakup, she saw him. Malcolm looked happy. Not the performed kind she specialized in, genuinely, quietly happy. She approached him anyway. "You really moved on," she said, glancing toward Naomi across the room. "So it was her?" Malcolm's expression turned serious. "No, it wasn't anyone. I had to learn how to be okay by myself before I could love someone else properly." Bianca opened her mouth to apologize, and he led her gently before answering. "I forgive you." A flicker of relief crossed her face until he added, "But forgiveness doesn't mean I have to go back." She had no response for that. There wasn't one. That night back home, Naomi asked him something she'd never asked before. "Do you ever think about that 24-hour thing?" Malcolm smiled. "Sometimes." "Does it still hurt?" He looked around at the life they'd quietly built together. "Not anymore." "Why?" "Because she taught me something," he said, taking her hand. "Some people measure love by how quickly they can replace you." He looked at her fully now. "The right person measures it by how carefully they choose you." Then, without warning, he was down on one knee, the herb garden behind them catching the last light of evening. "I don't want forever because we're afraid of being alone," he said. "I want forever because every single day I still choose you." Naomi said yes before he even finished the sentence. They planted another herb together that weekend, hands in the same soil. No cameras, no captions, no audience to perform for. Bianca once believed a person could be swapped out like a broken appliance, replaced within a day if the price was right. 2 years taught Malcolm the opposite. People aren't products. Love isn't a competition, and anyone who truly values you will never make you prove you're worth keeping. Have you ever lost someone because you didn't appreciate them until they stopped chasing you? Tell us your story in the comments below. And if this one hit home, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories about love, betrayal, healing, and second chances.